Hey guys, Prowl 1701 here, and today we're doing the concluding part of my ranking of classic Doctor Who. We'll be talking about the top 25 stories today. This, of course, is the 6th video in a 6-video series. I'm really excited about it. Every single one we're going to talk about today are absolute bangers, and we're going to get started at number 25. And that is The Mind of Evil. This is a good one, my favorite from Season 8. It's a little sad that this is the one that has the roughest color restoration due to only a black and white print surviving and them having to use the chromia dot recovery on most of the story, with episode 1 having to be manually recolored by Babel Color, who did a great job. It does, especially in the chromia dot episodes 2 through 6, look a little rough in places with skin tones where you can see the black and white almost breaking through. The sky has that not pixelated, but kind of colored dots going on in it, like Ambassadors of Death has. So it's the roughest looking of the season, but it's still a great story. It still looks good. It's a miracle we have it in color at all, so I'm not complaining. I enjoy the story. It's dark. If there's any story in the Pertwee era outside of Season 7 that feels like it would have slotted in with Season 7, it's this one. It does have that darker edge to it. Delgado is putting in a good performance as the Master. I love the interplay between him and the Doctor. Katie's getting stuff to do. The Brigadier's getting stuff to do. I'm liking that. I find this one a lot of fun. The Keller machine, even though it's a simple prop, really comes across as a dangerous entity, a creature, when it's teleporting around and doing stuff in the way it's killing people. The kind of superimposed effects that are used work really well, especially the couple times we get the cliffhangers of the Doctor with the fire on him. That's utilized really well and looks really, really good in color. I love that it is kind of a sequel to Inferno a little. They're written by the same writer. I think the only 2 stories he did. Both of them bangers. And I love the fact when the Doctor's talking to the Master at one point, it was like, well, you wanted to see if I could last against this machine. He goes, well, I'll tell you I can't. I just can't. It's not an easy thing for the 3rd Doctor to admit, but he's honest about it. I just can't. And how the Master goes out of his way to make sure the Doctor doesn't die. Which to me seems like an instinctual response, actually. Because despite all of their problems, most of the time the Master doesn't actually want the Doctor to die. Because they are old friends. And I love the fact the Master's greatest fear is the Doctor kind of laughing and mocking him. That's pretty telling. I like that all of that kind of stuff is established early on in the Master's existence here in Season 8. And they get to use a real missile. That's pretty cool. They got a real missile. The set for the prison looks really good. I enjoy the location work. It's just a really good 6-parter that fills out its 6 parts really well. Next on the list is Castrovalva, my favorite Davison episode, though not the highest one on the list, but it is my personal favorite. I find it a fun watch. It's a great end to a trilogy, with Keeper of Trock and Legopolis and Castrovalva really being a trilogy. Good introduction to the 5th Doctor. I like the fact we get to see him in Tom's outfit a little bit. I love when we get to see a Doctor running around in the previous Doctor's outfit a bit. The story is a little hard to keep up with, honestly, with the mathematics stuff and how Castrovalva even exists. But I still find it interesting. My only real complaint with it was some of the effects have aged badly, but the updated effects on the Season 19 box set really fixed that for me. I like the guest cast, Michael Sheard back again. I always have to give it points because I didn't realize the portrayee was Anthony Ainley, so when it's revealed to be the Master, I'm always like, ah! That one got me the first time. I guess I shouldn't say I'm always like that, but it got me the first time, so I always like that. And I feel like Davison's putting in a good performance in his first... Well, it wasn't his first one recorded, but I feel like when he recorded this one, he'd already settled into the role pretty well. And to be fair, I like him in Four to Doomsday, as I've mentioned in that one. He might be a little bland at times, but Davison felt really comfortable in the role very, very quickly, in my opinion. I like Castrovalva. It's just a fun watch. I love the scene when he's asking the guy where the Portree's house is, and he's like, here, here, and here. And then even the guy's like, wait a minute. I like that. Next on the list is the Macra Terror. This one has got to be due to the animation. The story itself is fine. I don't have anything against the story. It's kind of a B episode filler, kind of a filler episode or story. But I like it well enough. But the animation is probably the best animation we've had, especially the post-power stories. The characters have a really good likeness. They have a nice fluidity to their movement, which is unparalleled. That's the best fluidity of movement I think we've had. What they're doing with their facial expression seems much more natural than most of the animations. And I have a much easier time believing what's going on around me, not sitting there thinking, oh, this is an animation, this is a rig setup. I actually get really invested in the story. I like the creative liberties taken. I missed the rough and tumble scene, but it's a minor nitpick. I do get invested with a lot of the other changes, making the macra look more intimidating, for example, really works. This is also one I love in animation or color. Like, it's hard for me to pick between them. They're two very different viewing experiences, honestly. The recon is still fine to get through. I've watched the recon. I like it well enough. Now, because the animation is done a little different than the original production, the incidental music doesn't always match it. Like, the incidental music can feel a little out of place. But it's not really a problem for me. It's something like the back of my mind makes note of, but I don't find it problematic, if that makes sense. It's like my mind acknowledges it's a thing that exists, but it doesn't bother me. And I really like how well they draw Troughton and how they get... I feel like Troughton's mannerisms are done pretty correctly here. The way Troughton reacts to things is the way I can imagine Troughton reacting to things a lot, so I really like that. I do wish they had done a couple things better with the animation, like when the Doctor's breaking the gas vents instead of just a big vent with a screwdriver, like in the original animation where they were just kind of hidden holes in the wall and he would poke them with a wire. To me, that works better. So I have minor nitpicks with the animation, but it's still, It and the Moon Base are the two best animations we've gotten. And it's the animation that really carries this story for me, while also enjoying the audio and enjoying the story itself. Next on the list is Destiny of the Daleks. Why is Destiny this high? For the same reason Horns of Nimon was so high. The rewatchability of it. I always enjoy rewatching Destiny of the Daleks. Objectively, it struggles. The money obviously isn't there. The Daleks look a bit knackered. The mask on David Goodson doesn't fit properly. His voice doesn't sound right. The effects are a bit of a letdown, but it has things it's doing I liked. One, I just love the Mavellans outfits. I just love them. I do. I don't know why, but I do. I love Tom Baker in this and Lala Ward. I feel like they're putting in really good performances. I love some of Tom's scenes, like when he's doing the paper, rock, scissors things. Scissors beats rock, or scissors beats paper. I love that when he's explaining that to him. He has a lot of scenes in this where he's just on fire to me. Oh, look, rocks. I love that. Almost like the show's poking fun at itself. Now, the updated effects do help it. I do prefer the updated effects from the DVD and the new updated sound on the Blu-ray where it modulates Davros's voice properly. Those little fixes, the updated effects and the updated audio, do really help the story a lot. Yes, it does treat the Daleks more like robots. I think of it less like that and more of just them being extremely logical. I do like the story that the Mavellans and the Daleks are in a stalemate because of how their logic-minded thinking works. That's pretty neat. Although, again, it forgets that the Daleks aren't robots. And I love the fact that the Doctor and Davros, of course, stumble onto the problem quickly. The Mavellans are defeated a little too easy. Just the little control units on their waist, you can just take them off and reprogram them. That's a little silly. That is very silly, to be honest. And then the scenes when the Daleks are executing prisoners and the prisoners just kind of softly fall down. I mean, it's silly. But it's another one of those guilty pleasures. It's another one of those ones that I just like to watch. Again, everybody has that one story that objectively might not be very good. The fandom might not have the best opinion of it, but you love it. You love going back to it. It has that rewatchability for you. Horns of Nimon was like that for me. Destiny of the Daleks is like that for me. I watch Destiny more than I watch Genesis. Just something about it, and I think a lot of it is Tom's performance. I do like Tom's performance in it a lot, but I find Destiny 1 I like going back to a lot, and that's why it ranks so high. Next on the list is The Seeds of Doom, the Season 13 finale. This is a good one. Once again, another kind of 4-2 situation where 2 parts kind of have one thing going on and 4 parts have another thing going on. To me, the best parts are the first 2 parts where they're isolated in the Arctic. It has, of course, very much the Thing vibes to it, which I like. And I love how Tom is performing here. I love his, there is no Charles. There is no Charles. I love that. He's not trying to be callous. He's just trying, he understands the danger. And that every living thing on the planet can be killed. So he doesn't have time to worry about one person who might be too far gone anyway when he's having to think about the whole planet. So I get why he acts the way he does. He's trying to get it through to the other people that this isn't your friend anymore. I love that bit about, all right, doctor, talk. Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart had perfect pitch. Now about him, he died. And the bit when he tells him to turn around slowly and the doctor just does the full spin and 360. I love those little things. I like the guest cast a lot. The guys playing the people at the Arctic base, even though they're not in it long, they're good. I like them. The guy playing Scorby, I love the guy playing Scorby. He is so good. He's one of the reasons I like this story so much. He's so good as Scorby. The guy playing the kind of Scorby's right-hand man, Keeler, is that his name? He's good. I like him well enough. The guy playing Chase is good. He's a little hammy with it, but it's a good hammy. It's not an over-the-top roll-your-eyes hammy. It's just a kind of, it's just a little more. Which it's perfect for what it is. I like that a lot. The parts in the Arctic with the still kind of humanoid-looking crinoid work the best. I love the first 2 parts. The other 4 parts are still good. Once they get to Chase's house, I still enjoy them. Not quite as much as the first 2 parts, but I still think it's really good. It suffers a little bit because half the time I forget units in this because we don't have any of our unit regulars like the Brigadier or Benton or anything. It just feels more like generic army. I really wish they'd actually somehow managed to get Nicholas Courtney or John Levine. I get they couldn't. But it always suffers a little, I think, from me just forgetting units even in this story. Of course, the fully grown crinoid over the house is a little naffed, but willing suspension of disbelief, it's classic Who. And the sets for the house are really well done. It's a really good story. Again, Doctor Who doing horror the way Doctor Who does horror really, really well, typically. Next on the list, jumping into the top 20 here, is The Time Warrior, my favorite story from Season 11, and the introduction of Sarah Jane Smith and the introduction to the Sontarans. It's a really good story, the only historical for the 3rd Doctor. I really like Sarah in this. She's written really well, very independently. I like the fact she's suspicious of the Doctor. I like how she's cunning, she's intelligent, how she takes her a minute to realize what's going on, but once she does, she gets it in stride. She's really good. This is one of her best written stories where she's just written really, really well. The guy who plays the other scientist, the one with the glasses that doesn't have his glasses, he's good. I like him. I really like the Irongrad, whatever his name is, the human antagonist of the story. I like him a lot. He's a bit over the top, but again, in a good way. The guy playing the Sontaran with Kevin, he's really, really good as well. I really like him in this. I think the Sontarans have never done better than he's done here. I like the fact that the Sontaran, it shows just how powerful he is when he even knocks Pertwee down. You know, Pertwee's the fighting doctor, and the Sontaran even manages to overpower him after a minute. That's very telling to me. The updated special effects for it are really nice as well. I do like the DVD updated special effects. Just a really, really nice story. I wish the 3rd Doctor had more historicals. Next on the list is the War Games. I love the War Games. It never drags for me. Even at 10 parts, even with them getting captured, escaping, getting captured, escaping. The fact that they keep ending up in these other time zones and getting captured by different armies makes it work for me. It never feels stale. I love the scene, and I'll never forget watching Jess on Seska Says when she was reacting to it, because that's probably the reason why it sticks in my head. When they're trying to question the doctor, and the doctor takes control of the situation with the, "How dare you? How dare you question me?" And every time the guy tries to get a word in, it's just, "How dare you?" And I remember her just having such a laughing fit when she was reacting to it. And just thinking about that always makes me chuckle as well. So now I absolutely adore that scene. And I think she called the glasses like the evil glasses. So now I think, so it's always what they are in my head, the evil glasses when they hypnotize people. The guest cast are really good in this. I really enjoyed, I think, pretty much all the people. There's several of them in this too. It's done like layers of an onion, slowly peeling away what's going on when they're in one time zone. And you think they're in like World War I or wherever it is. And then suddenly they're in a different one and then a different. You don't really know what's going on for the longest time. Something's a little suspicious, but you don't know what it is. And then, of course, we get that episode 9 cliffhanger, which is one of the best in the entire show. And then you get the episode 10. Episode 10 is one of the most essential Doctor Who episodes to ever watch. I love the performances in it. I love the goodbyes between Jamie and the Doctor. I love their last little hurrah as they try to run. It's like the Doctor knows they can't escape, but he wants to have one little mini adventure with them just to humor them. I always get the impression he's humoring them, and it's really fun. And that little wave Troughton does when he says goodbye. I don't know why, but I love that. It's so Troughton. It's so Second Doctor. I really enjoy the War Games. Next on the list is State of Decay, my favorite of Season 18. Doctor Who returning to horror with a script by Uncle Terrence. I like this one. I like the performances. I like Tom Baker. I like Lalla Ward. Even the scenes when they're not looking at each other, I still enjoy it well enough. Adric's a bit irksome in this one, but not bad like he is in the 5th Doctor era. I really like the actors and actress that's playing the three vampires, the three who rule. They bring a bit of a theatrical performance to it, but it works. It fits what's going on with the story. Like the one scene when the female one, the queen, when I think it's when Romana like cuts herself or something, there's a scene where she kind of floats over. It's very theatrical, but it works. I actually really like their performance in this a lot. Their death scene's really good too. Really like their death scene. That looks impressive. Now, some of the effects don't work quite so well. When they're scanning underground and they see the king vampire, looks a bit naff. The scene when the rocket goes up and comes back down and stabs the king vampire also looks very, very naff. And it could use some updated effects there, but I do enjoy the story a lot. Easily my favorite of Season 18. And next on the list is Curse of Fenric, which I believe is the highest ranking McCoy story on my list. I do think this is the quintessential McCoy story, Remembrance and this. I do like Curse of Fenric a lot. Now, it's not one I watch a lot. It's another one of those, like a fine wine ones I keep on the shelf for just when I'm in the mood for it. And I do tend to watch, I think, the more extended version. I think it's the movie length edit, maybe. I tend to watch that one. I feel like the color grading on the film is done better, plus I like the updated effects. But I do enjoy the story. I love McCoy's performance in it. I like the character development for Ace. I like the location footage, even though it's shot on video. I like it a lot. We also have Nick Parsons, who I'm not as well acquainted with since I'm not British, but I know he was like a big game show host and stuff. But he puts in a good role in. I don't like the way he dies in the story. I wish he'd lasted longer, but I do like him in the story. I think he's a good actor. I like the performance of the two girls in it, the ones that become the Hemivores. I like them. I like the fact they go after the kind of, I guess that's not their mother, but whoever it is taking care of them. I love the fact they remember enough to go after her. The Hemivore design is really good. The kind of crustacean look they have to them, where they have that kind of underwater look. That looks really, really good. I really like the makeup there. It's very impressive. And what keeps them safe is faith. The one soldier, the one that does have faith, I like him a lot. The actor's doing a good job. It's a really, really good story. It's definitely 80s Doctor Who firing on all cylinders. Next on the list is the Romans. I like the Romans. It's funny. It's Doctor Who purposely doing comedy, and it nails it. I like this. It's just so much fun to watch this story. I need to give it a rewatch. I've only watched it the one time. But I found it so much fun. I love the fact Hartnell seems to be having a ball filming this one for one. I love that. I love when he gets in the fight with the one guy and Vicky kind of interrupts it and he's like, what did you have to do that for? I like to engage in some fisticuffs every now and then. I love that. I like the fact that Vicky and the Doctor keep missing Ian and Barbara, but sometimes just barely, but they keep missing each other the whole time until the end. I love that. I love the sword fighting Ian gets to. You can tell William Russell has some sword training because that one scene when he's fighting with the other guy to entertain Nero, that looks really good. 60s fights can look a bit rough, a bit choreographed at times because they didn't have a chance to do retakes if it didn't go well. But this one came out really good. I was watching it and going, wow, for a 60s Who fight, that's really good. The guy playing Nero, I would not like this story so much if the guy playing Nero wasn't so good. He is phenomenal. He's hilarious. He almost acts like a spoiled child, and I love that. Like someone who's just been given everything since he was 5. And I love what he does with his facial expressions. Like, anytime he thinks he's the cleverest one in the room and the Doctor says something to make him kind of doubt himself, he's, oh, you guessed. Like he wants to go to his room and sulk. That performance is so good. Him and Hartnell bounce off each other really, really well. I love when Hartnell knows about his plans for him, about feeding him to the lions. And he's like, yes, we should put on a good show for them. Give them something to really sink their teeth into. I absolutely love that. It's just a really, really fun, really funny story that always, well, at least the one time I've seen it, it really put a smile on my face. Next on the list is The Time Meddler, which is the highest ranking first Doctor story, I believe, on this list. I love The Time Meddler. It introduces the first kind of pseudo-historical. Peter Buttersworth is fantastic as the monk. He is so good as the monk. I love the chemistry between him and the first Doctor. Him and Hartnell just go off each other really, really well. The cliffhangers are really good, especially the cliffhanger when Vicky and Stephen enter the monk's TARDIS. And you can't, I would imagine at the time that had to be so shocking when they walk in. It's like, it's a TARDIS. The monk has a TARDIS. What a cliffhanger. And this is, of course, the first time we see another one of the Doctor's people besides him and Susan. So that's interesting. And to see that some of them aren't good people, that they are meddlers. I really like that. And again, this story kind of peels its layers back by onions. The finding of the watch. The monk, of course, losing the watch. The monk using binoculars. Are they really on Earth? Is it something set up to look like Earth? What's going on? It does kind of keep that going for a bit. I tend to like the guest cast in this too. I think the guest cast all do a really good job. Definitely my favorite first Doctor story. It just has a strong rewatchability to it. Next on the list is The Ribos Operation. Maybe I'm saying it right this time. I never know. I love this one. This one's this high because I enjoy rewatching it. Is it a masterpiece? Probably not. It's still Bob Holmes being amazing. But just everything comes together well with this one. I think it's written well. I think it's cast well. I think it's performed well. I think it's directed well. I like the set design. And just the cast really sell this. The guy playing the Graf Vin Decay is really good. The guy playing his kind of second in command is really good. And you kind of get the impression that maybe the second in command realizes the Graf isn't a very good ruler, but maybe he's just been attached to the Graf's family for so long. Maybe he served the Graf's dad. Who knows? But there's a loyalty there that seems like it comes a long way. And that's down to the performance. The guy who plays Benro is really good. Benro is a character that doesn't even have to be in the story. But the story, it adds so much to it that he is. And the actor playing him sells it. He's the reason why Benro is such a cool character. Then you have the two con artists. Now, the older one, Ustav, he's phenomenal. I love Ustav in this. I love when he's talking to the Doctor about planets. Oh, you sell mines? Oh, no, Doctor. I sell planets. And he says it with such pride. I love Ustav. Now, the other one is kind of, he's kind of the weak point. He's fine. He's okay. He's not blowing me away. And I don't like the Stringstone scene. I will admit, between the writing and the performance, I don't care for that scene. Maybe it's the accent he's putting on. But I don't care for it. Yeah, he's just kind of in the middle for me. But everything else I like. The sets look really, really good. When they're in the catacombs, when they're in the room where they keep all the treasures. And then I like the script. I love Mary Tam as Romana. I love that first scene with her in the Tardis. I'm Romana Lutheran, whatever her name is. And the doctor's like, oh, well, I'm terribly sorry about that. It's either Romana or Fred. I think I prefer Fred. Right, come on, Romana. I love Tom Baker in this as well. And Mary Tam's my favorite Romana. This is just a perfect storm of everything coming together to make a story I like. And that's why it ranks so high. Strong rewatchability from me. Next on the list is Horror of Fang Rock, which I have got to see recently with updated effects. Even the original version is like 9.5 out of 10. And right now, I think I'd give it, with the updated effects, it's like a 9.9 out of 10. I love Horror of Fang Rock. I love the story. I love the kind of, and then there were none approach it takes with the people slowly being taken out. I like the guest cast. Again, this is another one of those where you learn it's not necessarily good to be a guest star in Doctor Who, because everyone dies. All the guest cast die. The Doctor and Leela are the only ones who make it out. So I love that Doctor Who remembers sometimes when, you know, not everyone makes it. It's not this fairy tale thing where we save everyone. So I like that, you know, in Doctor Who, the Doctor doesn't always save everyone. People die, usually. I think that's why the empty child that Dr. Dances I love so much, that he is able to save everyone, and why he's so happy he's able to save everyone, because he usually can't. I like the model work. Looks really good for the lighthouse. The set design for the lighthouse is phenomenally good. Very impressive. Tom's putting in a good performance. It's got good cliffhangers. I've locked it in with us. I like the cliffhangers a lot. I really like Colin playing Reuben, you know, actual Reuben and Reuben the Rutan. He does a good performance with both. I really liked Ben, the actor playing Ben. It's a shame we lose Ben so early, because he's the first one that dies, but I really liked Ben. And Vince is good too. The only point I dock for it, instead of it being a 10 out of 10, it's like a 9.9 out of 10, is when Adelaide gets killed. It's really weird. It's like it cuts to Leela, Adelaide, and the other guy standing there as Reuben walks into the room, and it cuts to the doctor, and when it cuts back, Adelaide's getting killed by it, and it never quite shows how Adelaide got over there. Did she try to run past it? Yeah, it's just weird. It always bugs me. It's janky about how suddenly he's killing her for no reason, and Leela's not doing anything to stop. It's just, that always bugs me. So I have to dock it that little 1/10 of a point there. Other than that, it's really good. I do love the updated effects. The Rutan looks really good and more convincing and makes a little more sense. Plus the transformation effects look really, really good. It's a good story with a lot of atmosphere, and I really like that. Patty Russell being amazing like Patty Russell was. Next on the list is The Talons of Weng-Chiang, Tom Baker's best season finale. I love Talons. Again, it just has this feel to it. It feels like an epic story, which it is. It's cast really well. It is cast really well. I love the guy playing Jago. I love the guy playing Lightfoot. I even like the actor playing Chang, whose name I usually know and has slipped out of my head at the moment. He's also in, I believe it was Spearhead from Space. But he's really good in the role. I know it might rub some people the wrong way, and I'm not here to tell you how you should believe. I mean, if it's something that bothers you, it's something that bothers you. It doesn't bother me. I get that's just how casting was done back then, casting a white person to play a non-white role. I think it doesn't bother me because Chang is still written well and performed well. He's not written or performed as a joke or as a parody or as a cliche even. Matter of fact, it mocks that. It openly mocks the cliche. It was something a user pointed out, a subscriber actually pointed out to me one time, is when Chang is on stage performing, he talks in that very broken English. You know, Chang killed 17 peasants learning this trick. But when he's off stage, he talks in proper English, basically showing that when Chang is on stage, he's playing to the stereotype because he's making money. Whereas even making the joke of, well, there's one of us as yellow, because he's mocking the stereotype. Bob Holmes is mocking the stereotype and Victorian views of the time. People don't seem to get that Talons of Weng-Chiang, there is some satire in there. People don't seem to get that. Mocking the views of the time. But Weng-Chiang is off. He talks in a very intelligent manner. He's very well spoken, and he speaks a more proper English. The character is always treated respectfully, and the character is always performed respectfully. So due to that, I don't have problems with it. Again, that's just how casting was done then. The rat looks a bit not quite there, but the CGI rat's better. It's still honestly not quite there, but it looks a lot better. I really like Leela in this. I like that she gets to wear some of the outfits. I love the scene when she starts eating the food, and Lightfoot just looks at her and just picks it up, starts eating the food. That's hilarious. I love the location work done at night. That looks really good. I love the character of Magnus Grill. It has a very Phantom of the Opera approach to it. I know originally they were thinking about making that the Master. I'm glad they didn't go that route. I love him being his own character and him being from the future. His design looks really good. And then the makeup on him when it shows his face, that's some truly impressive makeup. Some of the best in classic Doctor Who. It looks like a melted candle, like just wax that's melted. That's really impressive. Really, really. And how that startles even Leela, strong stomach Leela. It's just a really, really good story with a really nice feel to it. Talons is considered one of the best for a reason. And next on the list is The Five Doctors, the highest Davison story on the list. Now, Castrovalva is my personal favorite, but The Five Doctors is such a good watch. It's a wonderful celebration of everything Doctor Who up to that point. It does a really good job of celebrating 20 years of Doctor Who, everything that we had had up to that point. The location work looks really, really good. Whether you prefer the more saturated DVD look or the less saturated Blu-ray look is up to you. But the location work does look really good, especially since the film elements survive. They really pop and look good. It's nice having the previous Doctors back. Pertwee, it's great to have Pertwee back. He's great. It's great to have Troughton back. He steals the show, as Troughton always does. And Richard Hurndall is putting in a great performance as the first Doctor. I always preferred Richard Hurndall over David Bradley. I like David Bradley, but I prefer Richard Hurndall. He just feels more like the first Doctor to me. And it's great having Sarah Jane back, except for the fact she's kind of wasted. She kind of goes back to this damsel in distress thing, like when she has to climb up the hill. That's like, it's really silly, actually. And then she's just kind of there, to be honest. I mean, I'm happy to see her, but she doesn't do anything. She's just there. She's just there to be there. And we get a little glimpse of K9, which is great. It's nice to have the Brigadier back, because I love the Brigadier with 2. The inclusion of Shada, especially for the time, was clever, using the Shada footage to kind of have Tom in the story. Doesn't quite work as much now because we can watch Shada and we're just like, oh, that's from Shada. But for the time, and for all the way up really until Shada got released, it worked really well to kind of have Tom in the story a little. I do like how they did that. Also, having 3 different versions of the story is nice. Having the original version, having the special edition from the 90s that's re-edited with extra footage and newer effects. That's cool. And then having the 40th anniversary version with the newer updated effects also is cool. That's probably my definitive version. But it's nice having 3 different versions of it to watch whenever you want. It's fun to go back and rewatch it. It's just a nice celebration of Doctor Who. And that's why it ranks this high. So, moving into the top 10. The top 10 classic Doctor Who stories of all time. Number 10, The Three Doctors. My favorite multi-Doctor story. It's amazing how much 5 has closed the gap, but it is my favorite. Part of it's just 3 and 2 together. I love Troughton and Pertwee together. I love the fact 3 and 2 just don't get on. That sells it to me. The scene when 2 first shows up in the TARDIS is one of my favorite scenes in all of Doctor Who. It's just hilarious. I enjoyed the story well enough. I think it's nice. Some of the effects look nice, especially the little entity that's trying to teleport the Doctor. The little antimatter thing. I think that's a pretty impressive effect for the time. The Brigadier isn't portrayed. I mean, Nicholas is doing fine, but the way he's written in this, he's a little more, I don't want to say, he's a little more slow in how he thinks things through and disbelieving of what's going on around him. I just feel like the Brigadier should catch on to what's going on sooner. I just don't quite like what they did with the Brigadier in this one. Nick is fine, but the way they wrote him doesn't work for me. Although I am happy the Brigadier and Benton finally get inside the TARDIS, and I'm glad Benton gets some stuff to do in this one and some good dialogue. I've took care of that. I've told him he's your assistant. His what? I love the second Doctor and the Brigadier together. The Omega outfit is fine. Stephen Thorne is doing a good job as this very strong-willed character, loud, booming character. Stephen Thorne voices Omega so well. So well that anytime I hear him voicing any other character, it throws me off because I always think of him as Omega. But he nails the part here. The actual story of it, with Omega really only existing, only his will and, insisting he exists, that's pretty cool. I like that twist. Of course, having Hartnell back is nice. We don't get him a lot. But considering his health at the time, and the fact he is reading off cue cards, he's putting in a pretty good performance. When you actually go and watch what little bit he's on screen, the way he's doing his lines, it's impressive that he performs his lines that well considering his health at the time, actually. It's nice to see all three of them together. And the design of the little creatures that run around for Omega, that's not an impressive design for me. That is one of the shortcomings of the story. But I enjoy it. It has its flaws, but it's a fun watch. And next on the list is The Pirate Planet, my favorite season 16 story. This one is so good. Douglas Adams just understands the Fourth Doctor so well, and Tom Baker and Douglas Adams together is such a perfect storm of awesomeness. I love the dialogue the Doctor gets in this. Like when he first walks into the bridge, he's like, "How are you doing? It's nice to see you. How are you doing? I'm the Doctor. Such hospitality. I'm underwhelmed." I just love how he's performing it. The guy playing the captain, Bruce, is great. I love him as the captain. Now, the captain's treated a little comedically in the direction they chose for the story. It's kind of easy to forget that he is actually very intelligent. The captain is a very smart man. The fact he's able to design the planet to be hollow like that, the fact he designs the bit when he balances what's left of the planet, setting the trap for the Queen. Even the Doctor is... impressed isn't the word, but even he's a bit surprised when he makes it work. He's like, when he's looking at it like a bit in shock, like, wow, you managed to do this. Although I do love that scene. It's like, I'm glad you impressed because you managed to make a fancy toy. I love that. I love the way Tom does that scene. That's really good. Now, it needs some updated effects. The effects are its weakest point. It is the season 16 story that needs updated effects. The lasers do not fire laser blast. You know how Prowl is about his laser blast. I've got to have some good-looking laser blast. Instead, they just kind of make the little dots of whatever they're shooting at, which at least they do something. And that, and I'm going to be honest, the sounds they make don't do much for me. That whoop, 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 whoop. I don't really care for that sound. When you do the updated effects, do some updated sounds. And then sometimes when the Mentats, what they were, I believe they're originally called the Mourners, when they use their psychic powers, the effects of that also need some improving when they're creating force fields or knocking the Doctor down. Those could use some improving. Also, the bit when they're doing the life force dying part is a little cringy. So there are nitpicks I can make towards it, but I do enjoy it. I do actually like the novelization because there's a lot of stuff in the newer novelization which is based more on the early drafts of the story that goes a little more in depth to stuff, like stopping the Queen was a lot harder in it. And they stopped her a little too easy in the TV episode. But I enjoy it, and it's got some good cliffhangers, and it's a lot of fun. I definitely recommend it. And next on the list is The Ark in Space. This one is one of the ones I have earliest memory of, actually. The two stories I have earliest memory of watching is The Ark in Space and Inferno. And The Ark in Space was the very first Doctor Who story I ever bought on DVD, which is, I never had any VHSs, so it's the first one I ever bought. I really like it, though, just from a story standpoint. This was one of the ones that, the green bubble wrap never bothered me. My imagination as a child filled that in immediately. And my memory of it that I had for so long, because I saw it when I was little, and then I didn't see it again until I got the DVD. Although I think I might have seen it more than once when I was little. my imagination had filled in everything and made it so epic. And it lives up to that. It delivers. I love the set. I like Nerva Beacon. It's a good set. I like the story. I like the performances. I like the actress playing Vera. I like the actor playing Noah. And watching Noah slowly be taken over by this thing, not just physically, but also mentally, which also reminds me a lot of The Fly, even though this came before The Fly, and how in The Fly, the Jeff Goldblum The Fly, how it's not only affecting him physically, it's affecting him mentally. And we see that here with Noah, where he gets confused about who he is, him thinking he's Dune, or whatever the engineer's name was. And how he's fighting with himself to hit the button, and how he's telling Vira to take command, and we will consume this world. It's a really good performance. I really like Tom in this. You can't take any credit for it. It's entirely due to my influence, of course. I love that. And how he motivates Sarah to get through the little vent airway. I love that. I absolutely love that. Foolish girl, we should have left you. It's a really cracking story that I don't go back and rewatch it a lot, but it's because it's such a prized possession to me that when I do rewatch it, oh, it's gold. It's gold. I don't think I've watched it since the season 12 set came out. I watched it when the season 12 set released, and I don't think I've watched it since. I think it might be time to go back. Is there an omnibus for the Ark in Space? I can't remember if there's an omnibus for the Ark in Space. If there is, I need to watch that because I've never watched that. I need to do that. Such a classic story. It's regarded as a masterpiece for a reason. Next on the list is Robot, and this one is down to purely me loving it. I've talked before many times about Robot on the channel. I love it. It's my favorite post-regeneration story. Not objectively the best one, but my favorite. I find it a lot of fun. It's playful. It's fun. It's silly in places. Some of the effects are a little naff, especially once the robot grows to King Kong size and is pretty much doing King Kong with a robot. When it's definitely some CSO there and he's definitely holding a doll, but it's fine. You have fun with it. I have a lot of good memories with Robot. I had a girl I was dating one time, also a Doctor Who fan, but she mostly just she just watched the modern show. And I remember showing her this one, and she had a lot of fun with it. Oh, the robot. We would both walk around acting like the robot. Oh! And the robot claws hanging instead of... It's so much fun. But Tom is so good in this. He really hits the ground running as the Doctor in this story. Once he's up, and he's up pretty quick. He just becomes the Doctor so fast. Like, you never have to watch a few stories for Tom Baker to really be the Doctor. He's the Doctor in this story. By the end of part 1, he's the Doctor. Sarah's good in this one. I love how this one really explores her curiosity. She has the same kind of curiosity the Doctor has. It always gets her into trouble. I love it. And it's nice to have an adventure with the 4th Doctor and the Brigadier. Of course, we got that in Zygons later, but it's nice that they have an adventure here as well. It's nice kind of having one last Pertwee story, even though it's not Pertwee in it, if that makes sense. Kind of like how the War Games is a Pertwee story before Pertwee. Robot is a Pertwee story after Pertwee, and I love that. I really love that. Everything just comes together in this one. Plus, I love the guy who plays Kettlewell. He's really good. I love Professor Kettlewell. Kettlewell? You let her go with Kettlewell? I love that. And then the woman who plays the kind of leader of the movement, she's really good. I like her a lot in this, too. She plays that character really, really well. Really good story. And number 6 on the list is Day of the Daleks. I really like Day of the Daleks. I like all 3 versions of Day of the Daleks. The original, the special edition, and the omnibus edition. They're all really fun watches. My favorite, though, and the one that gets it this high, is definitely the special edition with the updated effects. Granted, some of the updated effects weren't necessary. There is the occasional updated effect where I'm like, okay, that's a little much. It is a little padded in places. But for the most part, I love the updated effects, especially adding in the laser effects, because again, we know how Prowl is about his laser effects, and the original not having laser effects is a problem. So I love the new updated laser effects. I like the fact the Ogrons fire one color and the Resistance fighters fire a different color. I like the teleportation scenes better. Again, a couple of the shots work better in the original, like the futuristic Dalek City works better in the original than it does in the updated effects. But for the most part, the updated effects is definitely stronger. I love the story. I love the story. The people coming back to prevent a disaster and accidentally causing the disaster, making it kind of a loop. I like that. I like that ending. We see that happen more now, but I think for the time, especially, that was a pretty original concept. With the guy who created the X-Men Days of Futures Past even saying that he might have been unconscious, subconsciously influenced by this story when he was doing that. That's pretty neat. This one's a lot of fun. Good performances all the way around. I really like the guy who plays the controller in the future, who has on way too much makeup, but I really like him as an actor. I like the guest cast playing the gorillas. I enjoy the future sets. Look a little naff, but it's fine. It's classic Who. I like the location work. And I love how the updated special effects version, the special edition, filmed some new shots, which fit in perfectly to make the final battle look more climactic. Because the final battle was a little bit let down in the original version. I like the special edition does give it a more epic feel, like it should properly feel. It's just a really good story with a decent execution that, with updated effects, makes it a really good execution. I absolutely love Day of the Daleks. And we're to the top 5, and this got really difficult, especially 1 and 2. 1 and 2 are practically a tie, I'll be honest. When I get to 1 and 2, it's basically a tie. It's really hard to put one over the other. I did put one over the other because my number 1 has been my number 1 for a very long time. But number 2 is right there with it. Like, they're basically this. It's really hard for me to pick between them. I love them both. But all 5 of these are just phenomenal stories that every Doctor Who fan needs to see. So let's talk about the top 5 stories in classic Doctor Who. Starting with number 5, the legendary Genesis of the Daleks. This is the classic story, classic fans keep in their back pockets when people who only watch the modern series try to say that Modern Who is better. They'll be like, Modern Who has Blink, Modern Who has this, Modern Who has the empty child, the Doctor dances. Genesis is the ace we keep up our sleeve to go, up, we've got Genesis. And we win, we take the pot. Genesis is the story. That is the story that if you're a modern Doctor Who fan and you have heard an older fan talk about classic Who, the one they've probably brought up is Genesis. It has that legacy, a well-earned legacy. Genesis is phenomenal. Some people might argue it drags a little in the middle. I don't really agree with that. I can see where they're coming from. The bit with the clam doesn't need to be there. There's a little bit of the Beast story with Sarah that doesn't need to be there, but it's fine there. I tend to watch the full version. Now, there is an omnibus edit of it you can watch if you want to get that trimmed down a little bit. I actually saw the omnibus edit in theater myself. When the season 12 box set came out, they showed it in theater. I went and watched that. It's a great watch. I still prefer the full version. We have the introduction of Davros, who is phenomenally good. Michael Wisher is still the best Davros, hands down, in my opinion. This is definitely the best portrayal of Davros. I absolutely love Davros in this episode. We have Peter Miles back as Niter. Well, I shouldn't say back as Niter. We have Peter Miles back. This time he's playing Niter. This is probably his most famous role in Doctor Who. I always love when Peter Miles shows up in Doctor Who. He's so good. He just nails Niter here. And just that kind of almost fanatical devotion he has, while still being extremely professional, to Davros, no matter what. The parallels that the Daleks have always made to real life and what they're supposed to be paralleling has never been subtle. I mean, it's always been there, even with the first Daleks, but that's made very apparent here by the way people talk, by the black uniforms, by the way Niter clicks his heels. It's very obvious, saying, hey, this is a fictional version of this, kind of showing how evil the Daleks and the Khalids are supposed to be and where they've gotten. I do love the fact that it does portray the Thals and the Khalids as in a bit of a gray area. It's not the Thals are the good guys and the Khalids are the bad guys. It's not that. Both of them have good and bad people. Plenty of people on the Khalids. Matter of fact, a good many of them also want the war to end. They don't like what Davros is doing. They're trying to overthrow Davros. So you have good and bad people on the Khalid side. You have good and bad people on the Thrall side. And I like the Thals. Yeah, the Thals. Why am I saying Thralls? The Thals side. I'm thinking of Warriors Gate, aren't I? On the Thals side. So I like the fact that there are good and bad on both, and that is a more realistic take on that. I love the imagery of this. The location work looks really good. The opening scene when you see the guys in the gas mask getting shot. You know, this is a place that has just been through war for so long that both sides are getting desperate. That is communicated really well. I love the ending with the Daleks turning on Davros, which is they're doing exactly what he made them to do. And if Davros had never come back, that would have been such a fitting ending for him, with his comeuppance learning that his own creations became exactly what whether he wanted it that way or not, exactly what he wanted. I still think he probably could have hit that button a little easier. They probably should have filmed that a little different, where right where he turns around and goes to hit it, they shot him quicker. But it's still a really neat effect. And then the Dalek speech at the end, we will prepare, we will go stronger, we will grow stronger. That's a really good speech, very Dalek-like. Good performances all around. It's a really good story. It's a legendary classic for a reason. It is must-see Doctor Who. Number 4 on the list is Power of the Daleks. My favorite Dalek story. It and Dalek are definitely in the top 2. It is phenomenally good. And the fact that it can be this good in animated form is very telling. It just goes to show how amazing a script David Whittaker wrote. David Whittaker is definitely one of the most important figures in early Doctor Who, really establishing what Doctor Who was. And this is such a cracking script. I absolutely love it. It has to be a post-regeneration story, which it does really well, getting us acquainted with Troughton. It has to be a good Dalek story as well, which it is. It shows the Daleks, and it shows just how manipulative and intelligent and cunning they are, and how they will do whatever they have to deceive to get what they need from something, and then they'll turn on them completely when they don't need them anymore. I love a couple times when the Daleks almost slip, like when Lesterson's comparing the Daleks to humans. Daleks are better. Daleks are not like humans. I love that. There's a couple times when the Dalek has to catch themselves. I love that. I absolutely love that. The animation looks really good, especially the special edition. I always watch the special edition, which I have up here. The Daleks especially look good. That 3D modeling work on the Daleks looks phenomenal. But the rest of the animation is really good. Works really well. I enjoy the story. I love the subplot with one group of the colony trying to overthrow the other group of the colony to take over, and how that B plot blends into the A plot and makes everything going on with the A plot much more deadly. Lesterson is a cool character. Watching Lesterson change throughout the story is fascinating because he's so overconfident, and then he's in a panic, and then he just snaps. I absolutely love that. And I love Troughton in this. Even just from the audio and the animation, I love Troughton at this. And how he's pointing out the very obvious flaws of, well, you'll notice when he looked inside, he wasn't even shocked. No, he's been in there before. I love all of that. Power of the Daleks is just the Daleks at their best. David Whittaker understands the Daleks better than anyone, including Terry Nation. Really, only Rob Sherman can keep up with him, in my opinion. Like I mentioned when I was talking about Evil, I think David Whittaker understands the Daleks even more than Terry Nation. To be fair, it's such a phenomenal story. Everybody should see Power of the Daleks. If you can handle animation, you should watch Power of the Daleks. Number 3 on the list is Inferno, my favorite Pertwee story. I love Inferno so much. It fills out its 7 parts so well. So well. I absolutely love what it has going on. It never feels overly long to me. I can sit down and watch all 7 parts of Inferno in one sitting. I've done it. Sometimes I might take 2 sittings, but like a lot of times, I remember one time I meant to watch it over a 2-day period, and every time I finished an episode, I just wanted to watch the next episode. And I've seen it so many times, but I'd watch the cliffhanger and be like, yeah, I'll watch one more, and I got all the way through it, all 7 episodes. The special edition, which one of you guys sent, actually, one of my subscribers sent it to me. Thank you much for that. I had the original release, but the special edition, of course, had better restoration work done on it and looks a lot better. One of you did. Well, I can't forget who sent it, but somebody did send that. Thank you very much for that. I enjoyed watching it. So I've seen the original version. I've seen the original DVD release, and I've seen the special edition DVD releases. I own both. I love the guy playing Stallman. He is so good. He is so good. You just love to hate him. He's so good in this. I love everybody getting to play the alternate versions of themselves. And I know the cast have said they had fun with it. Watching Nicholas Courtney play the brigade leader, who acts tough and everything, but at the end of the day is really a coward, really afraid. It's really neat how when the chips are down and the pressure's on, whereas the brigadier holds, the brigade leader kind of crumbles and becomes a coward. I love that, even though he has this hard exterior early on. I love the alternate version of Liz. I like that she's stern in this kind of World War II German / 1984 world that they're in. She has that sternness to her, but at the same time, she's willing to take a chance and believe. Like, once she's around the Doctor enough, she sees what's going on. She starts to at least entertain the idea that maybe there's something to what this guy's saying, more so than most of the people on that planet would. Although I like the fact Sutton's kind of the same in both. The guy playing Sutton, he's pretty much the same in both. And it's interesting because Benton's not a lot different. Benton, the alternate Benton is just our Benton if he wasn't nice, if that makes sense. Like, you take our Benton, subtract the niceness, you have alternate Benton, and I enjoyed that. And the transformation scene when he turns into the werewolf school. The idea of the primoids and that, primoids, I like them. The werewolves, I love them. I tend to like werewolves. So there was a 1987 Fox series called Werewolf, and because of that, I've always been fascinated with werewolves, because I love that show. It had Chuck Connors as the bad guy. It's great. But I like the green design on them. They look really cool, and how they infect by touch, just like a werewolf does by bite. That's really cool. And how it not only takes you over physically, but mentally, leaving, and how it's a slow transformation is actually quite fascinating too. And their love for heat, and just everything going on in there is really fascinating to me. The location work looks really good, especially when they're having to shoot high up, which I know John Pertwee didn't like, but he did it anyway because he's amazing. I really love the fact all these fire hydrants that seem to be right where they're needed. I remember, I think it might have been Lee Binding or somebody posted a post not too long ago where it's like the real MVP of Inferno, fire hydrants. Because there's always just a fire hydrant right where the Doctor needs it. Like when he's doing the location stuff and he's up high and he keeps running into them in one universe or another, there's happened to be a fire hydrant there. It's a little coincidental, but I do love it a lot. I love that this is the first Doctor Who story that really delves into a parallel world. So you have this neat scenario where, because it's taking place on our Earth and an alternate Earth, the Doctor can actually lose. You can actually see the Doctor lose and Earth get utterly destroyed and all the billions of people on it die. That's basically what happens in this alternate Earth. The Doctor tries to stop it. He can't stop it. It's too late. And that world is destroyed. And all the people we've come to meet on that world, you know, they're dead. They're dead horribly. It's neat that we actually get to see the Doctor lose and how that affects him. We see him still suffering from that in the mind of evil, when that's what the machine latches onto in the mind of evil to torture him with, is that it's still haunting him, that billions of people died and there's nothing he could do to stop it. The cliffhangers are great. One of my favorite cliffhangers of all time is that bit in the alternate Earth when he's trying to get him to stop the drilling. Do you hear that? That's the sound of this planet screaming out its rage. I love that. You can't hear it quite enough because the sirens going on in the background are too loud. My one nitpick about it, but I love that. That's the sound of this planet screaming out its rage. I love that line. Love it. And then, of course, the cliffhanger of episode 6 when the lava is just flowing in and they're backing up is such a cool cliffhanger. It's such a good story. Inferno is easily one of the best Doctor Who stories ever made, and it never, ever, ever has pacing issues, in my opinion. It is excellently paced and fills out its 7 episodes well. Must see Doctor Who, must see John Pertwee. And we're down to the top 2, which, as I mentioned, are practically a tie. It's so close. But they're both phenomenal Doctor Who stories, both well made, both well directed, both well acted. They're just the quintessential Doctor Who people need to see, in my opinion. And how interesting that both of them are the same Doctor, but both of them are kind of the height of their respective eras of that Doctor. And number 2 on the list is Pyramids of Mars. Paddy Russell returns again. Paddy Russell got to be one of the best directors the show's had, between Horror, Fang, Rock, Pyramid, Invasion of the Dinosaurs. And she did one other one. Might have been The Massacre, I believe. And everybody raves about The Massacre despite it being missing. She seemed very good at what she did. Very good director. I love this story. It also has this nice feel to it. It has a good atmosphere, good tension. The Fourth Doctor truly has a grasp of just how deadly the situation is. And I love how Tom Baker plays that here. It's just phenomenal. It's cast well. The guest cast are fantastic. It's directed well. It's written well. I mean, it is basically a page one rewrite from Bob Holmes, so I'm not surprised. Bob Holmes was script editing at the time. The guy playing Professor Scarman, who's basically possessed the whole story, he's nailing. Between the makeup and what he's doing with his body language and his performance is nailing the fact that this is basically a walking corpse. And of course, we have Michael Sheard back as his brother, the other Scarman, and he's always a delight to see. I love how impressed the Doctor is with him. One, the Doctor's impressed he built his own machine. And then when Michael Sheard gets in the TARDIS and he's all excited about being in the TARDIS. And I just love that smile Tom gets as it's like he appreciates seeing Michael Sheard so excited to be in the TARDIS. Like, can I look around? He's like, why, sure. That little smile he has. Of course, he gets a little cross with him because the guy can't let go of the fact that that's not his brother anymore, and Tom realizes that could be a problem, which it does turn out to be. Sad to get killed by your own brother. I love Gabriel Wolfe as Sutek. Oh, Gabriel Wolfe is so good as Sutek. And I love how he uses that calm, whispering voice as opposed to, like, the booming Omega voice. It sells it more. Even though we don't actually really see the threat of Sutek except for a little bit, well, it explains just how deadly he could be. One, through dialogue. Two, through seeing the alternate future. So actually it does do a good job of showing us how deadly Sutek can be. It not only tells us, it also shows us, because we see that alternate 1980, and that's a really well done scene. And you just see Sarah kind of back up. That's pretty epic, actually. That's pretty cool. 1980, Sarah, if you want to get off. And, you know, the Fourth Doctor's not David Tennant. He doesn't have that human response, because the Fourth Doctor and Tom Baker, they understand the Doctor's not human. He's not going to respond to things the way a human would. That makes sense. That's some of the problem with the modern series, actually. So I like how he reacts differently to situations. And here he has so much going on, he doesn't have time to grieve for the people who've died. When Sarah calls him out on it, he flat out explains to her, 5 people have died, counting the Professor, but I can't deal with that now because I'm worried about billions. So it really puts it in perspective. I do like the fact that it addresses that. The scene when the Professor gets shot and you just see the smoke go, the fact they had to film that backwards and that the actor playing him was able to do that, because I watched the making of when they talk about that, is really impressive. Learning that Sarah is a really good shot and that's never brought up again is interesting as well. And I love how it explains just through the dialogue that even the Doctor's people are like ants compared to Sutek and the Osirans. Even your lot, even my lot. And it has a few humorous moments in it too, like when they walk out, they see the mummy and they walk right back. I know they improvised that themselves and I love it. I love it to death. It adds a little bit of humor in what is a very serious story. There are those little bits in there that I really like. It's just pinnacle Doctor Who. It really, really is. At number 1 on the list, just maybe slightly edging it out, is City of Death, the shining jewel of the Williams era. I love City of Death. It is absolutely phenomenal. The location work in Paris looks gorgeous. I wish the film elements survived for that. I wish they had retained them. You'd think filming in Paris, filming abroad for the first time, they would have. But it looks fantastic nonetheless. I love the humor. Again, it's Douglas Adams co-writing this story, and as others of YouTube have said, his fingerprints are all over it. It has his style of humor. What a wonderful butler. He's so violent. That scene is my favorite scene in all of Doctor Who. Well, why was he following me? Well, you're a beautiful woman, probably. That could be my favorite line in all of Doctor Who. You're a beautiful woman, probably. I love that. Only the 4th Doctor could pull that off. Well, maybe the 2nd Doctor. Who sent me? Who sent me what? I love that scene. It's my favorite Doctor Who scene. Tom is just in fine form there. Everybody is. The whole cast right there are doing a really, really good job. I don't think he's as stupid as he appears, my dear. Nobody could be as stupid as he appears. I love that. The whole plan with the Mona Lisa and the different copies to sell in the future is pretty neat. The idea that Scaroth was splintered in time and that he can communicate with all these different versions of himself, that is extraordinary writing. I would have never come up with something like that. And he's not even communicating with other beings like himself. He communicated with other versions of himself, that he was splintered in time. That is fascinating to me. Fascinating. And I love that we get that at the beginning of the model work at the beginning with the spaceship and the land right there. It's really good, by the way. The set design, the model work, that looks really, really good. I love Duggan. I absolutely love Duggan. Duggan would have made a great companion. I love the fact that he's kind of two-dimensional in a way, but it's kind of done on purpose, and they do call that out, like when the Doctor's like, you know, every time I start trying to talk with someone, you keep punching them in the face and knocking them out. And that's how they end up stopping it at the end, with just that one punch. The ending is a little too easy, I'll admit. It's this wonderful build-up, and it's over too quickly. If there is one point to take off of from it, it is that the ending's a little too easy when Duggan just punches him. That might be the most important punch in history. I love the fact that they solve it just with Duggan's punching. It's funny. It might be a little bit of a letdown, but it's funny. I do like Julian Glover in the role, and the woman playing the Countess. They're both very good. And Julian Glover, I love the actual disguise of Scaroth with the mask off. That's a pretty neat mask for his alien look. I like that. I think I fought a boss like that in the Guardian Legend, which is my favorite video game of all time. There's a boss kind of like that, a seaweed creature with an eye. It's the most annoying boss in the game. And you fight it like 3 times. The red version's the hardest. I love the Guardian Legend. I enjoy everything about it. And you get a John Cleese cameo. That's fun. You gotta love that. It's my style of humor. I absolutely enjoy it. And I love the bit when he's about to get tortured and the guy's like, "Stop! I can't stand being tortured by someone with cold hands." That stuff like that is why Tom Baker is my favorite Doctor. He just has those witticisms and those one-liners, and he can be serious and he can be comedic. And he was there for so long that we see his Doctor transition to these slightly different versions of the 4th Doctor, and I love them all. Even season 18, 4th Doctor. I just love the way Tom plays the role. He gets the Doctor, I think, better than anyone, and that fascinates me. So City of Death at number 1. So I want to know what you think of this list. Comment down below and let me know. Don't forget to click the like button and the subscribe button and the bell for notifications so you never miss out on another video. I also have a Patreon if you would like to support me on that. There's a link to that down in the description below if you've enjoyed this video series. I want to give a shout out to a couple of my top tier patrons, Colin Coney and Perkins. I appreciate their support, as I do the support of all of my patrons. It is very much appreciated. I also have a P.O. box. If there's anything you would like to send me to look at and review, a link to my Amazon wish list is also down there. A link to my Amazon UK wish list is also down there. I've updated that recently. And most importantly, thank you for watching.